This is the Deseret News National Edition, when your family needs to know more.
Good morning and welcome to the Deseret News National Edition. I'm Dave McCann. The propaganda wars that have ensued following the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling in the Hobby Lobby case show no signs of abating. Eric Baxter is a senior counsel for the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty, which represented Hobby Lobby before the High Court. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Almost immediately following the ruling, some in Congress called for a repeal of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, claiming the court had interpreted it too broadly. What's your take on that?
Yeah, the act, which is the short name for which is RFRA, has been on the books for 20 years. It was passed into law by President Clinton. It passed with almost unanimous consent of the House of Representatives and only three votes shy of unanimity in the Senate. So it's always had broad bipartisan support because it protects religious liberty of all Americans. And so it was very disappointing to see congressmen and senators arguing that it should be repealed just because the court let us do its job and really issued a very narrow ruling that protects the religious liberty of people who just want to run their business without being coerced by the government to purchase drugs that violate their religious beliefs.
Now, gay rights groups fear this ruling is going to be used to justify discrimination against them as employees. Are those legitimate fears?
Not at all. The court was very careful to issue a very narrow ruling. RFRA just allows balancing between individuals' religious liberty rights and the government's compelling interests. And the court specifically said that in the case of hiring and discrimination, the government may have a very different compelling interest, and it will look at those cases very differently.
Now, there are 90 other lawsuits challenging the birth control mandate. You represent several of those plaintiffs. They include Christian universities, a religious order of nuns, and a Christian television network. How do you think this Hobby Lobby ruling is going to impact all those cases?
Yeah, the Hobby Lobby ruling really is a good sign of what's to come. After the Hobby Lobby ruling, the court issued an order protecting one of those nonprofit clients, Wheaton College, and ordering that they could not be forced to provide the drugs against their conscience. The Little Sisters of the Poor, an order of nuns that we represent, also has received protection from the Supreme Court. And so we think that the opinion in Hobby Lobby bodes very well for the nonprofit clients going forward.
Maybe the biggest question here is, now that the Supreme Court's ruled on Hobby Lobby, what happens back down the road in the lower courts and the interpretations for those judges?
You know, the courts will be looking at what the Supreme Court said and following it very closely. And like I said, the court issued a very strong and careful ruling. And so I think it will be clear to the lower court judges that they need to support the religious liberty rights of these families and religious organizations that just want to run their organizations, provide for their families without being crushed under the threat of government fines.
All right, we'll see where this goes. Eric Baxter, senior counsel for the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty. We congratulate you for your fight, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
The World Health Organization identified depression to be the #1 cause of illness and disability in adolescents worldwide. Mental health experts have identified a number of reasons for the rise, ranging from media to genetics. But the rise and the severity of adolescent depression requires a response. In high-income countries like the United States, fewer than half of adolescents with a mental health problem actually receive treatment. Many families don't know where or how to get help because mental illness can seem like a black hole. Our guests this morning know firsthand about those challenges. Christy Fujinami was only 13 when she was diagnosed with depression, spent 5 months at an inpatient treatment center. And Jamie Justice, Executive Director of NAMI Utah. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Let's go back to your situation. Before you received help, what was your life like?
It was, depressing. Like, I didn't know anyone who I could talk to about what I was feeling. I wanted to talk to my parents, but I felt like I didn't have a reason to be depressed, so I didn't know how to bring that up because I had never heard any of my friends or anyone else talk about depression.
And obviously no one noticed, right? Outside of you just might be in a bad mood.
Yeah, exactly.
So you received some help.
Yes.
How is your life different now?
It's great. I volunteer with NAMI. I am going to be hopefully teaching a class called Progression that is for children or adolescents who have dealt with a mental illness and I'm really excited for that.
And you're majoring in child psychology,
Yes.
which will allow you to utilize all those skills.
Yes.
Jamie, is this experience, this is a success story, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that that's the really important message here, is that recovery is absolutely possible. It really takes the first brave step of talking about it, because there is so much stigma wrapped around mental health and depression, and stigma can be silencing, right? So if we're brave enough to take the first step and realize that people are willing to help us, that family members are willing to listen, that our friends are willing to listen, that we can really get help and move forward. And you have a great example of that right here.
Christy, what should parents be looking for signs from their struggling kids?
Oh, I don't like hiding out in your room. I know I did that a lot. I was social at school, but then at home, I would just like to spend time by myself. I mean, I think each case is different, how each child deals with depression, but if they do notice any signs of depression, then they should definitely talk to their child about it, because I know my parents didn't know about it until I actually went forward and told them.
Jamie, is it frustrating to educate us to the severity of something like this? Whereas if our child is diagnosed with cancer, we roll out the treatments, we don't miss an appointment, we know it's life or death. Here's a situation where we just don't see it that way for some reason.
You know, I'm not sure that it's frustrating, but it's certainly concerning, because that's what we do. You look at somebody who has cancer, or you have a heart condition, or maybe your kid gets in a car accident, and immediately you take them to the hospital, you get them the treatment that they need, and then on top of that, you have a whole society, a community, a neighborhood of support. People are bringing you food and things like this. But when you have a kid who might have depression or anxiety or some other mental health concern, that same sort of support network isn't there. But we need it. When you look at what it takes to recover from an illness, it takes education, it takes treatment, and it takes support. And you need all of those things. It's the same for a medical illness as it is for a mental illness.
And one thing parents need, like me, is to know where to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get all that. Where do we go for information on that?
So NAMI is a wonderful resource. We have several family support groups and family education classes. We also have adolescent education and support classes. And then on top of that, we have a mentoring program, so people can call in and talk to people who've experienced mental illness themselves. They understand it, they have an empathetic ear, and they connect you to the right resources that'll fit the needs of your family.
Christy, with parents engaged and getting you help, do you feel like you have saved your life?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I'm really thankful for my parents and all the help that they provided for me.
And a good example for others who need to reach out and get help.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Continued
you.
success in your education. Jamie, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
You can find out more information about adolescent depression online at national.deseretnews.com. When we think of sun protection, the first thing that comes to mind is SPF. But the protection you may be overlooking is for your eyes. Straight ahead, see the one accessory you need year-round and how much you should pay for it.